In the 1st century, before Common Era, the Roman Republic stood as one of the most powerful systems in the ancient world. Its laws, assemblies, and traditions had endured for centuries. Then a single general returned from Gaul with unmatched military loyalty behind him. By crossing a single river, he triggered a chain of events that reshaped Rome's political future. Historians continue to debate whether his actions preserved stability or accelerated the Republic's transformation. And while the Republic did not fall overnight, the consequences of that decision remain central to understanding Rome's transition from republic to empire. He was a general, a politician, and a symbol of power. Julius Caesar rose through ambition, strategy, and sheer will. His actions ended a centuries-old republic and shaped the birth of an empire. Loved by many, feared by more, he left behind a story of triumph and tragedy. His life was filled with battles, betrayals, and moments that changed history. But behind the statues and speeches was a man constantly balancing loyalty and control. Today we explore the journey of Rome's most famous leader. This is the rise and fall of Julius Caesar.
Before Julius Caesar, Rome was a republic ruled by senators and elected officials. Power was shared, debated, and constantly shifting. Caesar entered this world not just to participate, but to dominate. He challenged the structure from within, rising rapidly through political ranks. As consul and general, he made bold decisions that pushed the limits of Roman law. He formed secret alliances, passed reforms, and gained the support of the common people. But with every gain in power, he created new enemies in the Senate. They feared he aimed to make himself king, something Rome had rejected for centuries. His military victories made him a hero to the people, but a threat to the elite. Over time, Caesar blurred the line between republic and dictatorship. He redefined what leadership looked like in Rome. Through him, the Roman Republic began to transform into something entirely new. After his death, Rome would never return to its old ways. The empire that followed carried his name, his structure, and his legacy. Caesar did not just change the government, he changed the course of Western civilization. And he did it by breaking the system he once served.
Julius Caesar was born into a patrician family, but his path to power was far from guaranteed. He grew up during a time of political chaos, surrounded by civil wars and shifting alliances. From a young age, he understood that Rome rewarded boldness and punished hesitation. He aligned himself with the popular faction, gaining favor with the common people. His early political moves were strategic, each alliance, each marriage, a step closer to influence. He knew how to speak, when to fight, and whom to flatter. He also faced setbacks, including exile and loss, but each challenge only sharpened his ambition. He believed deeply in his destiny, and he never stopped pushing forward. The foundation of his rise was built long before he crossed any battlefield.
Julius Caesar's rise began not on the battlefield, but within Rome's political heart. He served as a priest, then climbed through military and administrative roles, gaining valuable experience and allies. He was appointed quaestor in Hispania, where he first tasted command and financial responsibility. Returning to Rome, he secured a key position as aedile, using public games to win popularity. Despite debts, he invested in his image, knowing how powerful public opinion could be. His charm, intelligence, and daring helped him stand out in a city full of ambitious men. He even used his family's claimed descent from Venus to suggest divine favor. Caesar aligned himself with Crassus, the wealthiest man in Rome, and Pompey, its most respected general. This alliance, known as the First Triumvirate, gave him the support needed to win the consulship. He passed controversial laws, often bypassing traditional methods, showing he would not be restrained by precedent. He was both admired and feared for his boldness. His political success set the stage for military command, where he would soon make his name. The Republic, already weakened, had no answer for someone so skilled in both politics and war. Caesar's rise was no accident. It was the result of constant calculation. Every move was deliberate, every risk weighed. And soon, the world beyond Rome would know his name.
Caesar's military campaign in Gaul changed everything. It was supposed to be a regional mission, but it became an empire-building conquest. Over nearly a decade, he subdued tribes, built alliances, and crushed resistance. His reports, known as Commentari de Bello Gallico, portrayed him as a defender of Rome, though his ambition was clear. He pushed the boundaries of Roman territory far beyond what was expected. Each victory increased his fame and his army's loyalty. He became not just a general, but a symbol of Roman might. The Senate grew uneasy, fearing that he had grown too powerful. But for Caesar, Gaul was not just about land. It was about legacy. He was no longer just a politician. He was becoming a legend.
Julius Caesar's campaigns in Gaul were marked by unmatched military innovation and calculated ruthlessness. He used rapid marches, surprise attacks, and superior logistics to defeat larger tribal forces. He constructed bridges in record time, crossed rivers previously thought uncrossable, and laid siege to fortified cities with precision. One of his most famous victories came at Alesia, where he surrounded the Gallic leader Vercingetorix and built double walls to defend against both the enemy inside and reinforcements outside. His strategies turned setbacks into triumphs and losses into lessons. But conquest came at a cost. Entire villages were destroyed, and tens of thousands were killed or enslaved. Caesar justified these actions as necessary for peace and Roman security. Yet behind the official reports was a man building his own power base. His soldiers became fiercely loyal, not to the Senate, but to him. The Senate watched with growing fear as he sent detailed accounts of his victories, shaping public opinion back in Rome. He returned enormous wealth to the state, but kept enough to finance his ambitions. His military brilliance was not just about war, it was about message and myth. The Gallic Wars transformed Caesar from a rising figure into an unstoppable force. Rome had gained a new hero, but it had also created its greatest threat.
When Caesar stood before the Rubicon River in 49 before Common Era, he faced more than a stream of water. It was a line that no Roman general was allowed to cross with an army. Doing so would mean war against the Republic. But Caesar had made his choice. He believed the Senate no longer served the people, it served power. By crossing, he rejected not just orders, but the system itself. His soldiers followed without question, ready to fight for their commander, not for the Senate. Caesar said, "The die is cast," and Rome was never the same again. That single step turned a civil divide into a civil war, and in that moment, loyalty overcame tradition.
Caesar's decision to march on Rome was not taken lightly. He knew that by crossing the Rubicon, he would be declared an enemy of the state. But the alternative, losing his power and standing trial, was not an option. He counted on the loyalty of his battle-hardened troops, who had followed him through years of brutal warfare. As he advanced south, city after city opened its gates without resistance. His arrival caused panic in Rome. Senators and rivals, including Pompey, fled the city. Caesar did not seek immediate revenge. He aimed to restore control. He entered Rome not as a destroyer, but as a man with a mission. His approach was swift and disciplined, avoiding unnecessary bloodshed when possible. Still, civil war followed, stretching across Italy, Greece, and into Egypt. In every battle, Caesar demonstrated unmatched adaptability. He defeated more experienced commanders and used terrain, timing, and unpredictability to his advantage. He even spared enemies who surrendered, offering clemency as a form of control. His victories were not just military, they were psychological. He reshaped the meaning of authority in Rome, and with each step forward, the Republic faded.
With the civil wars behind him, Caesar returned to Rome as its undisputed ruler. He accepted the title of dictator, not temporarily, but for life. Yet instead of revenge, he focused on reform. He reorganized the calendar, expanded the Senate, and granted citizenship to distant provinces. He passed laws to reduce debt and regulate grain distribution. To many, these changes brought stability after years of chaos, but to others, they signaled the death of the Republic. Senators feared his growing popularity and the cult of personality forming around him. Whispers of kingship spread through the city, and the line between leadership and tyranny began to blur.
As Julius Caesar consolidated power, he initiated sweeping reforms that reached every corner of Roman society. He restructured the tax system, reduced corruption in the provinces, and launched major public works projects. His reforms stabilized the economy and created jobs, especially for veterans returning from war. He also introduced the Julian calendar, a system so precise that it still influences our modern timekeeping. Caesar filled the Senate with his supporters, diluting the power of traditional elites. Though these moves increased efficiency, they also weakened the system of checks and balances. His actions blurred the lines between progress and control. Statues of him appeared in temples, and his image was stamped on coins, symbols once reserved for gods or kings. Rumors spread that he sought a crown, especially after he refused to stand when the Senate entered his presence. The Roman people, weary of instability, largely welcomed his leadership. But many in the aristocracy viewed his rule as a threat to tradition. They feared that the Republic, once guarded by collective decision-making, had become the domain of a single man. Caesar's vision for Rome was grand, but not everyone agreed on its price. And tension in the heart of the Senate grew with every passing day.
The warning signs were there. Soothsayers told Caesar to beware the Ides of March. Friends grew distant, enemies grew quiet. But Caesar, confident and defiant, dismissed every omen. He believed his popularity protected him. He entered the Senate on March 15th, 44 before Common Era, unarmed and unguarded. There, surrounded by men he once trusted, he was stabbed repeatedly. Among the assassins were senators who claimed they were saving the Republic. But with that act of betrayal, they plunged Rome into deeper chaos, and the world lost a leader whose shadow would only grow larger after death.
The assassination of Julius Caesar was not an act of passion. It was a carefully planned political strike. Led by Brutus, Cassius, and over 60 senators, the conspirators believed they were defending the Republic. They claimed that killing Caesar would restore Rome's lost balance of power. Yet their actions had the opposite effect. The murder shocked the Roman people who mourned Caesar as a hero, not a tyrant. His funeral turned into a moment of mass unrest, as Mark Antony used a powerful eulogy to stir public emotion. The conspirators, expecting gratitude, found themselves branded as traitors. Riots broke out, the streets of Rome filled with fire and fury. Power shifted once again, but this time into the hands of Caesar's loyalists. His adopted heir, Octavian, stepped forward, forming a new alliance with Antony and Lepidus. Together, they declared war on the assassins. What followed was another bloody civil conflict. Instead of saving the Republic, Caesar's death accelerated its fall. And a new form of rule, imperial, absolute, and lasting, began to take shape in the vacuum he left behind.
Julius Caesar's assassination did not end his influence, it magnified it. His name became a symbol of power, transformation, and destiny. Octavian, later known as Augustus, took up his legacy and became Rome's first emperor. The Republic never truly recovered. Temples were built in Caesar's honor. His deification set a precedent that future emperors would follow. His reforms, writings, and military strategies continued to shape governance for centuries. Philosophers debated his motives. Artists immortalized his story. And Rome, once a republic of laws, became an empire of legacy.
In the immediate aftermath of Caesar's death, Rome was left with no clear direction. His will named Octavian as his adopted son and political heir, an unexpected move that shifted the balance of power once more. Mark Antony, a loyal general, initially seemed the stronger figure, but Octavian's political instincts quickly surfaced. Together, they formed the Second Triumvirate and took brutal revenge on Caesar's killers. But unity was short-lived. Civil war erupted again, this time between former allies. Antony's alliance with Cleopatra of Egypt only deepened the divide. In the final battle at Actium, Octavian emerged victorious, claiming control over the Roman world. With the Republic irreparably fractured, he established the Roman Empire. He took the title Augustus, and though he avoided the name king, his power was absolute. The Senate remained, but only in appearance. Caesar's life had pushed the Republic to its limits. His death allowed it to be replaced entirely. His story became a turning point, not only in Roman history, but in the history of governance itself. From citizen to god, from general to legend, his transformation was complete. Caesar did not live to see the empire, but without him, it would never have existed.
More than 2,000 years later, the name Caesar still echoes across cultures and languages. It became a title used by emperors in Rome, by kaisers in Germany, and by czars in Russia. His legacy influenced thinkers, rulers, and revolutionaries alike. His writings are still studied, his tactics still taught. Some see him as a visionary, others as a destroyer of democracy, but all agree he reshaped the world. His life challenges us to ask, can one man truly be greater than a system? Or does the system simply change to fit his shape? Julius Caesar's story did not end with his death. It began a chapter that the world is still writing.
Julius Caesar's influence reached far beyond the Roman world. His name became a symbol not only of power, but of change, both feared and admired. The month of July was named in his honor, a sign of his lasting presence in daily life. Artists across centuries painted his life, from triumph to tragedy. Writers turned his story into plays, epics, and philosophical discussions. Shakespeare's Julius Caesar brought his final moments to the stage, making his fall a symbol of betrayal and political consequence. In military academies, his campaigns are still studied for their precision and innovation. In political science, his rise and fall remain a lesson in authority and ambition. His assassination is often cited in debates over leadership and liberty. Monuments and coins bearing his image have survived for over 2 millennia. Emperors who followed tried to claim his legacy, but none could replicate his unique blend of charisma, strategy, and vision. Even modern leaders invoke his name, sometimes with admiration, sometimes with warning. His story crosses borders, languages, and generations. Few individuals in history have cast such a long shadow. And yet, it is not just a shadow, it is a mirror held up to power itself.
Julius Caesar's life was more than a series of battles and titles. It was a story of how one person's vision can reshape the course of civilization. From his rise in the streets of Rome to his fall at the heart of its Senate, he left behind questions we still ask today. What makes a leader great, and what makes him dangerous? His ambition brought glory, but also destruction. His reforms brought stability, but also fear. His death ended the republic, but began an empire. Caesar was not just part of history. He changed how history works. If you found this story thought-provoking, share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to explore more lives that changed the world, like this video and subscribe for more.